We're back. It's Virginia, and today we're talking Salt Lake City. So, this week was a big crossover episode with Below Deck, and we're going to talk all about it. But before I get into that, I just want to make sure that you guys listen to yesterday's podcast with Jasmine Harris. That's episode number 69. Jasmine Harris is with the Innocence Center, and yesterday we aired part one of a two-part podcast. Part two will air next week. Really amazing episode. I really hope you'll take the time to go back and listen. And so take a minute now before you dive too deeply into this episode to follow and subscribe. And guess what, guys? We're getting ready for BravoCon. We got all kinds of good merch on the way. So make sure that you find me, seek me out, and hit me up at BravoCon. And who knows, you may be able to get one of the new goodies that we have. And say you were there with me live at BravoCon 2025. So talking about the Salt Lake City group, these gals all embark on a luxurious yacht trip to the Caribbean, and Heather Gay, because of her relationship, and I say that very lightly, with Captain Jason, ends up being the primary. Apparently she and Whitney had vacationed or spent some time with Captain Jason before, and then we have all of the girls showing up at the airport except for Bronwyn, who Whitney tells us is not going to be making the flight, but in fact will be joining them later. So of course it raises all sorts of speculation on she's probably not coming because of all of the fallout from the legal issues that have made their way across the internet, and she probably doesn't want to answer for them. And so the girls all basically assume that she's probably not going to show up to the trip at all. 18 hours later, and they're finally in Canouan, and they board the luxurious yacht captained by Captain Jason, and we find out relatively quickly that Heather and Captain Jason had some relations. Now, she doesn't really want it to air, or does she? Okay, you guys. She says it, and then in the confessionals, she says, oh my gosh, did I say that? You have to cut it. You can't air it. Did I say that? LOL, cheeky look on her face. She wanted everybody to know that she was messing around with Captain Jason. And you know what? To each his own, but I was at BravoCon 2023, and you could not turn a corner without hearing a rumor about the latest person that Captain Jason had either hooked up with or canoodled with. So I suspect that he has rewritten his list for 2025, and we'll hear a lot more about that. It doesn't seem like his tactics or antics have changed much in the last couple years. Nonetheless, Heather tells us that she's there to have a good time, and well, apparently so is Brittany, because this girl just cannot stop flirting, and it's kind of icky. We hear her tell us that she was taking a break from Jared, but then Jared showed up to help her pack, and oh well, I guess the 30 days is going to have to start all over again. Translation, she couldn't keep her legs closed, and therefore she shows zero self-control. And guess what, guys? It's continuing on the yacht, because if it has legs, she's trying to have a moment. She, at one point in the episode, gets to a point where she's so blatant about it that she asks Captain Jason to give her a tour. And she says, do you really drive the boat? And you can tell she's trying to be really flirtatious. It's not great. It's not great. But Captain Jason blows her off. He says, I'll show you, but not right now, of course. And then when she feigns disappointment. He says, "Oh, I've been up since 4 a.m." and then just basically blows her off. She is trying to get with the deckhands. She really must have low self-esteem in order to feel like she has to lead with her sexuality. I don't know. It's just my opinion. Don't come after me. I would probably say it to her face. I intend to introduce myself to her at BravoCon because she did respond to one of my Instagram posts. And I want to be able to point out that it was me, and hopefully we could overcome our differences, because at the end of the day, I think she makes amazing housewives content. I think she's really good for the show. I can't understand her logic when it comes to her love life. Of course, I don't have to live it, so I don't know why I'm so invested. But I do know that I could probably have lived without ever knowing that Jared sent a recorded stuffed animal, a unicorn, with a recording of his voice saying, "I love you, babe, good night," to Brittany, which I'm sure included other phrases. And so Brittany had a lot of nerve to complain about the fact that she's going to have to room with Bronwyn. Anybody who has to room with that unicorn should be the one complaining. So the joke's on you, Brittany. You look like a silly girl bringing that darn thing onto the yacht, especially when you're hot to trot for Captain Jason. So we see in a preview that it gets thrown overboard, and that can't happen a minute too soon. It didn't happen in this episode, but I guess we'll see it shortly. So everybody starts to talk about, whether or not we're going to be bringing up this conversation with Bronwyn if she shows up. And poor Angie. Angie is not having a good time. This girl is struggling with motion sickness and is really having a hard time getting her sea legs. And so she spends, her whole, the entirety of this episode pretty much in her stateroom, and she's rooming with Mary. So out of solidarity, Mary decides that she's going to stay in the room with her. I honestly think it was Mary's brilliant plan to avoid having to sit at the dinner with the rest of the girls. Would I have done it given the circumstances? In other words, could I be sitting on a bed eating while my roommate is on the other side of the door puking their guts up? Probably not. Would I have shown solidarity and stayed with my friend? Probably, but I would have eaten before or after, and I don't think that I would have made such a fuss about my bathroom visit either. It was funny, haha. Mary made a moment out of declaring that now that she had emptied her bowels, she had room for more food. I don't know. I think I said it here before. I'm not a big fan of the potty humor, so for me it was kind of like, ew. But the girls all sit down to this dinner, and it's not long before Heather confronts Lisa and brings up the fact that she thinks that she's the one who's behind all of the rumors that are going around, not just about Bronwyn, but she says, "I think you're the source of all the dirt." Somebody finally said it out loud. Thank goodness. Now, if there was any question as to whether or not people are going to come after Lisa Barlow this season, we got our answer. If Heather's coming after her, this is going to be an old-fashioned gang up. And ordinarily, I do not like these, but I feel like Lisa's been, cruising for a bruising all season, being aggressive and unreasonable and constantly running away. And I'm supposed to have a little bit of empathy, apparently, because I'm supposed to read between the lines and understand that she's going through it from the tiny little morsel that we were given a few episodes back, where she kind of, but not really, admitted that there might be issues in her marriage with John. So I guess we're supposed to infer that there are issues, read between the lines, that's why she's acting differently, and then show her deference because of it. I freaking strongly disagree. I mean, she's been acting like a pain in the ass all season. And even though I don't really want to see a big old gang up, I really, really am happy to see her being held accountable. Sadly, it's not long before things explode and she runs up off the table, crying, talking about what have I ever done to any of these people as she's furiously trying to get John on the phone. And I mean, Lisa, really, I'm guessing that's a rhetorical question, because if you really want to know what you've ever done to any of these people, just go back and watch the 6 seasons that you've filmed. You've done something to basically everyone on this cast. Well, Bronwyn shows up, and of course, even though she explicitly states that she did not want to have an entrance, she makes an entrance. She's dressed in this floaty ducky getup, and apparently there was something to be shamed for, because Lisa had seen her wear that outfit on Instagram. And so I guess technically she couldn't wear it again. I don't know. I thought the outfit was silly, and I am kind of over her, silly costumey outfits. But let Bronwyn be Bronwyn. But if Bronwyn's going to be Bronwyn, then she is going to subject herself to any sort of commentary that people, including Lisa and me, may want to make about the way she chooses to outfit herself. So when they first got on the ship, they made a hard and fast rule that Brittany was not going to be allowed to use Jared's name. And if so, she was going to be doused with water. And so within 10 seconds, she says, Jared, Jared, Jared. And as if on cue, Meredith, who's sitting next to her, stands up and dumps an entire water pitcher of water on her. Now, even though she was warned, I think I would have been pissed off about this. I understand that the girls don't want to hear about this dude, but who wants their hair all jacked up and their makeup all screwed up when they just got on the yacht? Especially Brittany. I mean, she's got a man to find, She's got things to do. She's got to look her best. Nonetheless, I agree. I don't want to hear this clown's name the entire episode either. So I understand where they're coming from. It does get a little carried away later on, because when Bronwyn gets on, she is the one who points out to Brittany that she's not Jared, and therefore make sure that that if we're sharing a room, I'm not Jared. And Whitney, who's a little buzzed by this point, hears the name Jared and assumes that it was Meredith. That it was Brittany that said it. And so they go and wet Brittany again. And honestly, at this point, the crew is starting to look at them a little bit sideways. But this is before anything really goes crazy. When Heather confronts Lisa at the dinner and tells her that she thinks that she's the one that's behind all of the dirt, it's amazing how the mood at the table changed. And for me, I was like jumping up and down inside, because I was so happy that someone had finally said it out loud and that they were going to talk about it. However, it wasn't very long before Lisa picked up her marbles and ran away. And then we see her out on the, I don't know what they're called. I think those are called floating decks. She's out way at the end of the floating deck, hysterically crying, talking to John about how she can't understand how these people are so mean to her. And Heather heads into Mary and Angie's room and she's babbling in tears because she's upset that she upset Lisa. But at the end of the day, this needed to happen. I think that we're going to have a lot of issues coming up in the next episode. And I did not really find the pickle or cucumber or whatever the hell it was. Is that going to be a thing? Are they going to carry that through to the next episode? If so, it seems planted. I don't like it. I like that Heather stepped out of her comfort zone and actually confronted Lisa. I said it, I think, the last time I covered Salt Lake City. Season 6 Heather Gay is really growing on me. And I don't think that that is going to change as we approach the end of the season. So this was a really good episode. There just wasn't a lot to talk about because it was mainly, it seemed to me, like setting the scene for the rest of the shit hitting the fan next week. I'm frustrated by this whole episode because it seems like they keep forgetting they're on board a luxury yacht. And if anything, they should be focusing on having the time of their life. This is something that is, doesn't come often for many. For most, it doesn't come ever. So the fact that they're using this to just have another Salt Lake fight is kind of pissing me off. But I think I'm going to be able to find a little bit of levity, hopefully, in the upcoming episode. And I don't know. I really thought it was sad to see Lisa out there crying at the end of the episode. But at the same time, I feel like Lisa's been performative all season. And so if this is, what it is for her, if this is how we confront this, then, this is the way it is. Maybe she should have been a little bit more open and forthcoming with the issues. And then maybe people would have shown her a little bit of empathy. However, to be fair, Bronwyn is being super forthcoming about what's going on. She, when asked during the episode, tells everybody that, look, I got evicted from my apartment when I was in college. I didn't pay the last month's bill, and so I had to pay it later. And oh, by the way, there is this statute that includes all of these other things like grand theft auto and I think it's trespassing that were 10 years ago. And people are trying to regurgitate this information and make it seem like it just happened. But because the case is closed, I can't say anything. Now, that part I'm going to call bullshit on because I don't feel like she was, indebted to have to keep her lips sealed on what happened. I think that she's using it as an excuse to not have to share the story, and good for her. Let them. You guys, just let them. Why do people have to go out of their way to try to tell everybody what to do all the time? I don't understand. Leave this girl alone. She does not need to tell you what happened 10 years ago. There's no reason that she should need to embarrass herself that way, unless, of course, everybody else on this cast is willing to do the same. Now, I think that I have a hot take, and even though a lot of people don't like Bronwyn, I feel that she is a great addition to this franchise. I think she's articulate. I think she can hold her own with the girls. I'm just a little bit frustrated that she does not exhibit that same strength when it comes to her mom and to Todd. I really hope to see that change. And I don't know what's going to happen next week, but I'm here for whatever it might be. I think that I hope we've heard the last of the lawsuits and the drama, but who knows? And do we think that Lisa is going to overcome this nervous breakdown she's having and staying for the rest of the trip? Yes, we do. They show her in the previews for next week. So I guess she does get over it and eventually stay. Will there be any lovely yachting and living high off the hog on this trip? Who knows? Consider your company, consider the sources. Will we get to see more of Captain Jason and the crew? Yes, we will. Do I think this was a good episode? Yes, I did. Would I like to see more crossovers? Yes, I would. Sadly, there's not a ton of things to talk about with regards to content and time. So this is a really short podcast, but I'll be back next week to talk a little bit more about it. And we will find out how this trip ends or continues on. You guys, it's almost Halloween. What's everybody going to dress up as? So I never had been a huge Halloween fan. I dressed up till I was like 10 or 11, and then a couple of times in high school, mostly as a gag, and then never really for my children. But I have found myself dressing up over the last few years for my grandchildren. And it's kind of fun. I'm going to a Halloween party, and I hope everybody out there is really safe and has an amazing Halloween weekend. The ofrenda is all up over here at Living on the Verge, and we will be inviting all of our lost souls to rejoin us over Dia de los Muertos, which is on Sunday. And it also happens to be my husband's birthday, so happy birthday, honey. I hope you guys have a great weekend. I'll be back next week to talk a little bit more about Orange County because we have the season finale coming up. And of course, we're going to talk pop culture and food and travel. I'll let you know what I'm up to over the weekend. And then we'll have part 2 of our interview with Jasmine Harris of the Innocence Center coming next Wednesday. So a lot of great things in store. We're going to be getting ready to start talking BravoCon over the next week or so. And my friend Jen Baker will be back, and we will be talking health and wellness, and we'll get started on my journey to find my best self. And I really hope that you follow along with that journey because I'm very excited to share it with you, to be vulnerable, and to be held accountable by you. So stay tuned for all the good things. I can't wait. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. Join me again next week. Until then, I'll be here, living on the verge. Bye.